Mr. DioGuardi, we've been hearing a lot lately about exchanging territories between Kosovo and Serbia. Kosovo wants to have, or Preševa's Valley wants to be united with Kosovo, reunited with Kosovo, and maybe Kosovo has to give up the northern parts of the country. And we've been hearing Albanian politicians in Kosovo talking about that lately. So what's your opinion about that? Are you in favor to exchange territories, and why, if you are in favor of that?
The Albanians in Preševa, somewhere they say are like 100,000, maybe it was that way, like Montenegro is probably down to 50,000. We don't know. They don't allow any right census. You don't know how many Albanians there are yet in Macedonia. And that's at least 800,000, and I think over 1 million, and they say no, only 25%, which means maybe 500,000. So all this is political, because if they admit there's a lot of people, then they've got to do a lot more. That's human rights from an international point of view. So how many are in Preševa? Let's say 50,000 or more. These people are being repressed the worst way in the Balkans, more than any other Albanians, because Serbia does not allow them their rights, does not allow them to express their national rights. Even the flag, I mean, we've had problems with the flag in Macedonia. You have big problems in Serbia. The sorry thing is that this part of the Balkans was part of Kosovo until about 1956. It was just taken by Serbia. So there's every right to think, to get to the solution. Why shouldn't we just now decide, since the Serbs are so active with their propaganda, to say the top part of Kosovo is ours. In fact, they still haven't recognized Kosovo. So the first thing you have to say, and I'm sure you're going to hear it from Shirley and everybody else, we shouldn't even be talking until Serbia says we recognize Kosovo. Then we have some good faith. And Serbia has a reason to do this, because it wants to become part of the European Union. And the European Union has said to Serbia, you got to be a good neighbor. If you're not a good neighbor, don't expect to become part of the European Union. They are terrible neighbors to the Albanians. They lie, they confuse, they manipulate, and they have politicians in Albania, in Kosovo, especially Kosovo, and I can mention the names, Staci and Haradina. They have their own strategy based on what their party believes, or what they believe. It's not what the people really want. So we don't even know right now. And Daci, of all, may be more concerned about going to The Hague or going to the special court than anything else, so he's willing to give up something.
So you're saying before starting negotiating, exchanging territories, Serbia should recognize Kosovo's independence?
You cannot trust the Serbs. Like you can't trust Putin, you can't trust the Serbs. They've lied. Look at Milosevic. He lied about everything. I think at some point in Sarajevo, he killed his own troops to blame the Albanians. This is how non-moral these Slavic people are. And Vucic and Dacic come from that line, okay? And they all come from Dobrica Ćosić, 1939, who wrote the paper, The Expulsion of the Albanian People. They weren't caring about the people, they want the land. Now, how do you deal with it now? Well, Serbia has a failed economy. They have people that need to support their politicians, and they know that. So these guys have to deliver something. But at the same time, they are afraid to touch what they call the third rail in politics over there, and that's independence for Kosovo, because they've been saying for years with their Orthodox priests, who are part of the government, by the way, as you know, not like United States separation of church and state, that this is their Jerusalem. They've been lying about it since 1389, Fush Kosovo. And it's very hard now to say, all right, we're going to give this away to the Albanians, because they've convinced all these Serbs that this is their place. But that's a lie, and it can't exist. Kosovo is independent. It's been recognized now by 116 states out of 192 in the UN, recognized by 23 out of 28 in the European Union. It's over for Serbia. So Serbia should now say, all right, let's at least get this one by us now, and let's do something. So let's start with Preševa, and let's start with this group of Serbs in the north, and let's figure out how we can do something that's fair to the people. And I think that one of the things that has to be on the table, and Daci doesn't like to talk about, anything like a swap, and maybe that's the wrong word, so they're talking now adjustment of borders. like they did with Montenegro, the demarcation of the borders. So there's a way to use some words to get around it politically. But there's no question in my mind that Preševa belongs in Kosovo. It's right there in Jalan. Shirley and I have been there so many times. We meet
But
with
before swapping territories, Serbia, Belgrade has to come up with recognizing Kosovo's independence, right?
Yes, because that's respect. That's what the European Union wants. Each state to respect each other if we're going to have a union in Europe called the European Commission, European Union. So I tell the Albanian leaders, and I've said it before on TV, I'll say it again, I'll talk to the press, I say, do not trust the Serbs, trust their actions. And right now, we need the Serbs to do something fair. And fair means, let's do something good for the people. The Serbian people, not the Serbian government, the Serbian people and the Albanian people in Preševa, they need to have their own identity. And I think Preševa belongs in Kosovo, and that very top tier part of Kosovo belongs with Serbia. That's the way it has to begin. But there are complications, because we know there are many more Serbs below the Ibar River, and they have to be treated by Kosovo as citizens of Kosovo with their national rights, with their language rights, just like we expect in Macedonia today. So I wish I could tell you that there's an easy answer. There's none, but let all this discussion be in the open, where the people can hear it. Because whatever the solution is, it has to have the support of the people, otherwise you'll have all kinds of conflicts in the future.
First of all, under the Kosovo's constitution, Hashim Thaçi has no right to be entering in these discussions. Secondly, before it's too late, the very first thing that has to be said is that there can be no discussion of this kind, no discussion of any kind, until there is a universal recognition of Kosovo's independence, Kosovo's reality as a sovereign state, first and foremost by Serbia, but people also forget by 5 members of the European Union who have yet to recognize Kosovo's independence. So what do we have? We have Slovakia, we have Romania, we have Cyprus, we have Greece, and we have Spain. Why is it that we don't see the professional class, at least within Kosovo, demanding this before any discussion takes place? Why is it that the political class, the people that are not part of PDK, why aren't they willing to confront President Thaçi? Why not? Why has President Thaçi become a pawn of President Vučić? Is it because he's worried about being turned over to the special court? This is everybody's assumption. But how many years has it been since the special court was pronounced and no one's been taken there? And even if, let's say, this is something that's going to come down the road, this will not save Hashim Thaçi if he is scheduled to be taken into that court. What it's going to mean, though, if he continues to acquiesce, Kosovo's future is extremely imperiled. It's very, very important going forward that number one, the recognition of Kosovo's independence is universal. Number two, if in fact these negotiations finally become open, and there must be transparency both by the West and by anyone in political leadership in the Balkans. And if the decision is made that, okay, the most northern part of Kosovo is already lost, and those people, those Serbian people, or I should say Kosovar Serbs, want to become part of Serbia. Let's say we arrive at that point. Then the only way that part of the north, not just right north of the Ibar River, it's much further north, then yes, the Preševa Valley should automatically have to become part of Kosovo. It can't be a one-way street. And the other thing that I'm very upset that most politicians and professionals in Kosovo have not talked about for years. And I know it because the Albanian American Civic League has been involved with people from Preševa ever since the conflict there in 2001. Why is it that we don't hear enough about the fact that the Kosovar Serbs, 80% of whom are south of the Ibar River in Kosovo, have definitely equal rights with other Kosovars. Why don't we hear that Serbs across the board and in the north in Kosovo have the highest level of human and civil rights of any minority in the Balkans, while at the same time in Preševa, Medveđa, and Bujanos, you have the worst record in terms of human and civil rights for the Albanian population there. And by the way, I should also add, I've forgotten to say, that in the discussion about, should the part of the north go to Serbia and the Preševa Valley, go to Kosovo, it's already being said that that will probably only be the Preševa Valley and not Medveđa and Bujanos. And where is this going? No one knows. No one knows. So there needs to be a call from people inside of Kosovo, people of courage, again, to come forward, challenge the fact that the President Thaci does not have the right to pursue this discussion any further, and to demand that the international community must ensure the recognition of Kosovo's independence, and that no one should be willing to continue the Pristina-Belgrade talks until this is the final conclusion.